The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
Well, here we go. You know by now that your Vols are in the college football playoff, and they will play Ohio State University. So one of the things we didn't mention, Caleb, is those two universities are widely regarded as the two best bands in the nation. We didn't get that in. So halftime should be a treat.
That for major college football programs, you're right. I think they do have the two best.
No, they regularly go back and forth with the championship.
Yeah, I never thought about that. So for me, I think of major college, growing up where I grew up and having been to these schools, major college football bands are like the Division II of bands, though, because HBCU bands are all the best bands.
Yes.
I mean,
no question about it. They are the best by far. All right, so we got a big show on tap as it's a Monday. Now we know where Tennessee will be in the college football playoff, but we've got more to it than just that today. We'll visit with Ollie Lane as well. We always love visiting with Ollie. And did Tennessee get a favorable matchup? That'll be today's tough question. 4 downs coming up a little bit later. We lay out Tennessee's path to a national championship this day in Tennessee sports history. And I mentioned Jacob Warren's stat of the day. We'll have 2 more Vols entering the transfer portal. One of these I think is a loss. I don't know that it's a loss in 2025, but I do think it's a loss. And how will the Vols handle being number 1 when they visit to Miami? So a lot to get to on the program today. Thank you for joining. Please hit the, how about that thumbs up button? How about the subscribe button? We would greatly appreciate that. It is today's tough question. It's right now.
Today's tough question. Take a side. Take a stand. The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
All right. Today's tough question. Did Tennessee get a favorable college football playoff matchup? And I assume you're talking about draw as well, because potentially playing Oregon, number 1 team in the nation, in round 2 ain't great.
Yes. I'm talking about draw in the first round in general. Did they get a favorable matchup with Ohio State?
Okay. So what say you?
Given the fact that Tennessee was going to have to go on the road, and that was established last week with the rankings, I think they should be happy with their matchup. I kind of looked through it last night, Dave, and I think that if you're Tennessee, of the 4 teams playing home games, Texas, Notre Dame, Penn State, and Ohio State, I think you would rather play Ohio State than the other 3. And the reason I bring that up is Ohio State is they're really banged up right now. I was looking at them last night. They're really banged up. And as I've talked about before, the fan base is ready to quit on their coach. And I think the players are going to be infected by that mentality. And with all that in mind, I think that, Texas, I question how good they are. And I've questioned that all year. They haven't beaten anybody, but they still do have talent on that team. Notre Dame, playing at Notre Dame can be rough. I mean, this, Dave, that Columbus is one thing. That's in the middle of Ohio, but South Bend, that's right up there on the lake. I mean, that's a totally different type of environment playing at Notre Dame. And then Penn State, although Penn State chokes in big games, and yes, they do choke in big games, I think they're a lot more excited to be where they are than Ohio State is to be where they are. I think Ohio State's very down on themselves and has a very poor mentality entering this playoff.
I agree. They don't like Ryan Day. He can't beat Michigan. But I think any program worth its salt is going to get jazzed up for one game, especially an elimination game. So I'm gonna part with you there, but I will say this. they might not be excited enough to pay or withhold the exorbitant ticket prices. If you don't believe in Ryan Day, follow me here, because I was thinking about this over the weekend. Tennessee is one of the top 3 or 4 traveling teams in the nation. No question about it. They are. You've seen what they've done to road games like Pitt. You've seen what they've done to all of these different bowl games where there's a ball walk. If that fan base, they don't have to run out there and say, lose Ryan Day because we hate you. They don't have to be that bad about it. But let's just say Johnny Q. Public decides to buy a little fewer of those playoff tickets. Who's going to gobble them up? And is there a chance, I'm not saying 50-50, but is there a chance that 20 to 30% of the fans there are in orange? That would send a major, major statement in recruiting, those spending NIL dollars. And they did that at Pitt, which if you haven't read my latest column, the Pitt game was what started all of this back in 2022. And I talked to Cooper Mays about that. It was the Pitt game. That's what started the trajectory up. And Caleb, maybe this starts the final trajectory of winning a national title.
I mean, that's a very, very good point. And we could take it even further than that, Dave, if you really think about it. Put it this way. If Tennessee puts 30% of the fans in the stadium, I think we can safely say then that they're definitely going to get the benefit of the doubt in the future, right? They won't do this to Tennessee again.
Yes. And Tennessee has gotten the benefit of the doubt for the most part. And I don't know how you do it when there's a true elimination game, but Tennessee getting the benefit of the doubt should be the case if it's 50.01% Ohio State and it's 49.91%, whatever the case may be. I think that Neyland and Tennessee deserve the benefit of the doubt because it just looks darn good on college football. Today's tough question. What do you think of the draw? What's our poll question at now?
Today's tough question. I'm sorry. Let me pull it up real quick. I'm having a I was checking something real quick and I'm losing sight of all of my tabs open, guys. I really apologize.
Tell you what, we'll take 30 seconds from Banks and Jones to get right back to that.
Why Banks and Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks and Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks and Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks and Jones. T. Scott Jones. Banks.
All right, Caleb, where's our poll question?
I'm putting it up right now. It's not showing. I will set it up right now, which is this. Did Tennessee get a favorable matchup against Ohio State? Yes or no? And Dave, I got some stats for you real quick after I put this up.
Why didn't mine show up? I put it up earlier.
I have no idea. But it's I know. Oh, well, I got this up now. So, okay, here's some stats I want to bring you. Ready for this? That's going to really throw you off?
Yes.
I just checked StubHub. And guys, I just opened StubHub right now. Dave, I think you would be very, very shocked at how low interest is in this game from at least Ohio State's fan base.
Okay, to me, if you can get in the house for $100, that's super low. Can you get in the house anywhere?
No, you can't get in the house for $100. However, let me just give you context real quick. Notre Dame, Indiana. Guess what the cheapest tickets on StubHub are going for Notre Dame, Indiana?
$600 or $700.
$914. All right.
Okay.
Second most expensive is Texas and Clemson, all the way down at $300. $300 is Texas and Clemson.
Okay.
Tennessee.
Go to that game, then I have an HD television down the road that I would like to sell you. Just $100 markup. Go ahead.
Penn State And SMU is the worst at $141. But Dave, that's because SMU fans aren't buying tickets. They're not having to compete with SMU fans to buy tickets.
Well, right. And I've actually been told that Fritz, you can actually get a full Fritz down for free if you go to that game.
Oh, well played. I thought you have to be under 18.
Value in that game.
I thought you have to be under 18 to get that at Penn State. Okay, sorry.
Moving on.
But Tennessee's Ohio State's, you can get in for $291 right now on StubHub, which is the third cheapest of the tickets right now.
Tennessee, and if you just looked at it as far as a marquee, you would say that's the biggest game of the first weekend.
It's the biggest game of the first weekend. It should be by far the most expensive ticket, shouldn't it? Like, by far the most expensive ticket.
So while we've actually been on the air today, we have determined that this is a good time to go ahead and call up there and buy a ton of tickets, and that Tennessee could take over Ohio State in a playoff game. Surely, to the love of Pete, I can't be saying that right.
I can tell you this. My brother sent me a text yesterday. He's got tickets to the game. They were under 100 yesterday. They were under 100. So I'm just going to tell you guys this right now. Tennessee fans are pushing up the prices of these tickets. That's what's happening right now. Tennessee fans are pushing up the prices. Ohio State.
What I read from that is Ohio State fans are keeping the price of the tickets low.
Yes, because they're not buying them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier. I bet, honestly, I would have woken up this morning if I was a Tennessee fan and thought, well, darn, they're going to buy up all the tickets there. It's going to be like trying to go to an Alabama game in Bryant-Denny when you don't know you want to go until 3 days before. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I would have thought that too. No, they are being sold and they are scooping it up. And I just have to be honest. It's really intriguing how this is happening. And I'm starting to think that, look, I think you might see Tennessee fans fill that stadium, like what you just said, into the 30% range. Ohio State fans are very, very unhappy with the state of the program right now. And this is why I think it's a favorable matchup. I think tell me if I'm wrong, Dave, but I get you're supposed to get up for the game, but like the demoralization of the program, look, I told you guys this yesterday and I'll say it again. If you're Ohio State or Michigan, that's like the one type of rivalry where, like, even if you win the national title at Ohio State, you're still like, yeah, but we lost to Michigan. Like, you can't ever overcome that loss. You know what I mean? Whereas, like, Dave, if Tennessee lost to Florida but won the national title, Tennessee fans would be like, who cares we lost to Florida? We got the national title. And that's the ultimate goal. I mean, you think about the title first. Ohio State is not going to get over the fact that no matter what they do this year, it's, but we lost to Michigan. And they are demoralized because of that.
Okay. You think the Vols can win a natty, right?
Yeah.
All right. Let's get to it. 4 downs right now. And it's brought to you by our good friend at Medicare Misty.
4 downs. 4 questions. 4 answers. The Dave Hooker Show.
4
downs. A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
All right, how Tennessee can win a national championship. 4 downs brought to you by Medicare Misty. And let me ask you this, Caleb Calhoun. You take marching orders from Cooper Mays. So, Cooper, what down is it? It's not that down. That name is such a good setup, too. There we go.
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
All right, what down, Coop?
Coop here. First down.
Okay. Obviously, it's beat Ohio State, but how does Tennessee go about doing that on the road in the Horseshoe?
Take advantage of Ohio State being demoralized and of Tennessee fans taking up a significant chunk of the stadium, doing what you just said they would do against Bet. Or they did against Bet.
Agreed. I'll take it up a little bit further. I think this is going to be an ugly game, kind of like the Oklahoma or the Arkansas game. I think that ultimately, and I did a little bit of research on the Buckeyes, and I see what Kirk Herbstreit was actually saying about you can run it at them. Now, when you look at their stats, they rank 4th best in stopping the football, but I don't think that's the case in the 4th quarter. if you're very, very dedicated to it, I know it's not as exciting, and I'm not saying Tennessee can't boat race them, but if you're dedicated to running the football, you can move people around in the fourth quarter. All right, there, Coop. Who's next?
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
All right, what do you got?
So the road to the Natty, if Tennessee beats Ohio State, they will go to the Rose Bowl and face Oregon. For those who don't know, the Rose Bowl is the only New Year's Six bowl game that Tennessee has never won. They're one of two teams, them and Texas, to have never won one of the New Year's Six games. Texas has never won the Peach Bowl. I got to be honest, it's more impressive to say you never won the Peach Bowl than to say you never won the Rose Bowl. But
I want to thank for just a moment Nick Saban reading my column because did you see him at the very end of the college football playoff selection show?
No, what did he say?
He said, "Now listen," and I think he was referring to SMU specifically, but you brought up a team in Oregon that made me think this. He goes, "Now listen, you can have all the skilled people in the world. You can get really excited about the skilled people, but it's the interior of both offensive lines that will determine this tournament." And he said there was a team not that long ago that they had a great run and congratulate them. He didn't want to say their name, but they didn't have the interior, and you saw what happened. And then Reese Davis goes, TCU, and they got hammered by Georgia 52-7. He goes, that's the team. This game, just playing off your point of moving forward, because I knew who we were getting to next, Tennessee could have a decided advantage on this round. What down, Coop?
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
All right. What's second down?
Well, no, that was second down.
Third down, Coop.
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
Point I was trying to make is that I think Tennessee will have more of the big uglies when it comes down to the interior of the offensive and defensive line when they play Oregon. All right. Third down?
That is true. Before we get to third down, can I push back on one thing just a little bit?
Sure.
Isn't it safe to say that a place like the Rose Bowl, I mean, you've watched it, Dave, the weather is nice every year. Isn't that the one type of bowl game where skill players can still outdo the interior? Because I feel like it's more the NFL where the big nasties is really the advantage because it's cold. And in the cold weather in the playoffs, you like the teams with the better interior lines almost always win, don't they?
I mean, I could see that, but at the end of the day, I think football is always going to be won by the interior of the offensive and defensive line. I think that's rule number one. If I were to teach someone how to watch a football game that had never watched before, that's probably where I would start. Not watch the football go down the field. Watch those six guys in the middle.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So on the third down, if Tennessee is to beat Oregon after that, they'll either go to the Cotton or the Orange Bowl, and they will play either Clemson, Texas, or Arizona State. Now, Clemson and Texas play in the first round, and then the winner of that will play Arizona State in the second round. And then whoever wins that game will go to the Cotton or Orange Bowl. So Tennessee would play Clemson, Texas, or Arizona State. I think of those, you would most love to play Clemson, even more than Arizona State, because part of football, and I think you agree with me on this, Dave, is it's not like basketball or baseball, but getting hot at the right time still can be a thing. And
if Tennessee gets past Ohio State and Oregon, it means they're hot, and they'll hammer any of those teams you just mentioned.
You think they'll hammer any of them?
Yes.
Okay.
I think Oregon is going to be, I would say the Ducks at a neutral site, I'm guessing a little bit, would be like a 5-point favorite. Wouldn't you think?
Probably. Yeah. I mean, Oregon, think about this for a minute. Oregon barely beat Ohio State at home. If you put those teams on a neutral field, Ohio State would be favored right now.
Yep.
And I mean, I'm kind of laughing because doesn't it seem like Tennessee's road gets easier as they get further into the playoff?
This is true. Let's get to fourth down, brought to you by Medicare Misty.
I've been in business actually 19 years this year. I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. Fourth down.
All right. Tennessee's final step to winning a national championship is?
winning the title game at Mercedes-Benz Superdome in Atlanta. That if they get past that third round, they will go to Atlanta and they will play the national title game. The other side of that bracket is Georgia. I mean, let's see, doing the math in my head: Georgia, Boise State, Penn State, SMU, Notre Dame, or Indiana. They'll play one of those 6 teams. Which, by the way, the 6 teams, everybody I just named, Georgia's got such an easy path to the national title game now, being on that side of the bracket. Not that they don't deserve it, but they've got it.
Does Tennessee have the hardest path?
Does Tennessee have the hardest path to the national title?
I mean, they have to go on the road and they have to play the number 1 team. I think it's slam dunk. They've got the hardest path.
It depends on, and Dave, I'll ask you this. Like, based on pure numbers, yes, they have the hardest path. But, I'm actually going to say that Indiana has the hardest path. And here's why. They have to go on the road to play Notre Dame, which isn't Ohio State, fine. But if they get past Notre Dame, they have to play Georgia. And, I mean, am I crazy to say I'd much rather play Oregon than Georgia? No.
Playoff? And let me tell you what. Oregon would rather play Oregon than Georgia. They would rather have an intra-squad scrimmage. We saw the best team Saturday night. I realized that, or Saturday afternoon, I realized that wild footballs can happen and things can get goofy and the ball can bounce different ways. But I feel like I'm going back on what I said last week and probably about 3 weeks ago, Caleb, where I thought that this was wide open for the taking. It's wide open for Georgia's taking. Somebody else is going to have to get lucky. And I haven't seen an update on Stetson Bennett. I don't know if you have this morning or not.
You keep saying Stetson Bennett, but you mean Carson Beck.
Yes, Carson Beck.
I haven't either. I don't think it matters. You talk about being able to be so, in the era of the transfer portal and the NIL, so many different players transfer everywhere. You can't be deep at quarterback. Jordan goes 3 deep with 5-star quarterbacks. And I think any of them are capable of running this offense. And so, I mean, Gunnar Stockton went out and beat Texas, having not taken any reps with the first team all week. What do you think he's going to do if he gets to work with the first team throughout 3-4 weeks of practice now?
Fair point. Chattanooga Mortgage, congratulations. Your home search just got easier. Buying a home in Chattanooga has never been easier. Chat with two T's Mortgage. Chat with 2T's Mortgage.com. Out of that second round, the first round, the way they set up the bracket, it makes it look like sometimes there's another round. Have you ever noticed that? Yes. But okay, so out of the first round, is there a place Tennessee would rather be? If I could just magically make you be able to put a team elsewhere, but not be at home. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would rather be an SMU spot if I were Tennessee. Visiting Penn State, but not just visiting Penn State, because Penn State, Ohio State, it could kind of be a watch, which wouldn't stuffer. But if you get to the second round, you then play Boise State. I'm like, come on. I mean, I'd much rather play Boise State in the second round than Oregon in the second round. And so I'd rather be that. Let's call it what it is, Dave, though. Penn State has by far the easiest path. As the 6th seed, they get to play SMU at home in the first round, which I'm going to talk a little bit later, shouldn't have been in this playoff. And then they get to play Boise State in the second round. I mean, they literally just got like boom, boom to the Final Four right now. And if they don't get to the Final Four, that's fireable, isn't it?
I really believe that James Franklin has done something in a previous life that has gotten him all the breaks as a coach. Because there has never been a worse coach have more success in my life than James Franklin. And I'm talking about even if they lose in the first round. If you would have told me that he was going to start taking that team to the college football playoff, even given what I know about the reshaping Big Ten, I would have said you're crazy. I would have said, Ryan, if you'd have asked 5 years ago, who's more apt to go to the college football playoff when it turns to 12 teams? Is it James Franklin or Ryan Day? Let that one sink in for a second, because you would have said, right, we both are down on Ryan Day now. But at the time, this is the exact word that a person used that covers Ohio State. He's a wonder boy, man. He just sees the game at a different level. That's what I was told about somebody. Yes, he sees the game at a different level, like small person's level. Can I say small person?
Yeah. I mean, James Franklin is like, I think he's outside of Kirk Ferentz is the dean of Big Ten coaches now. Funny enough, would be second, which is crazy to think about. I don't know what James Franklin does. It seems like he runs the program all off the field. I mean, at the end of the day, Dave, the guy did have 2 top 25 seasons at Vanderbilt. Who does that? Like, I mean, that's pretty impressive.
It is, but they played nobody. I've got more respect for them going 6-6 this year than what they did last year with a nobody schedule. Not that they're playing world beaters every week now. Don't get me wrong.
I mean, they still in 2011 and 2012, they still had to play Georgia. And I mean, I know Tennessee was down, but they had to play Georgia and they had to play South Carolina. And at that time, if you remember, South Carolina was rolling under Steve Spurrier. So they didn't just get to avoid everybody. I agree with you on the field because I've seen James Franklin just make some dumb calls on the field. But there's those coaches, Dave, that we talk about it, and I do it in my Football IQ segments where they are so stupid on the field, but they do everything right running a program off the field. So you kind of look past their – you've covered coaches, right, that do everything right running a program off the field, so you look past their on-field stupidity that comes in every now and then because they're doing everything else right.
You know it. Absolutely no argument here whatsoever. Yeah, I've seen a lot of coaches like that. I've seen coaches on the other end of the spectrum too, which I believe he's one. He's a very good, personable kind of coach. He's intelligent, but I've seen him make a lot of football mistakes.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
I'm not questioning his intelligence in general. I mean, I think he knows how to unlock his front door.
But and Ryan Day seems like the opposite, right? Maybe Ryan Day is great with X's and O's and like calling
Ryan
plays.
Day's just banging on his front door every single day.
What I mean is Ryan Day, you notice he's never made my Football IQ list ever. And but he is Ryan Day calls all the things right on the field on Saturday, but I don't think he runs the program properly off the field Sunday through Friday. Is that fair to say? Whereas James Franklin does everything right Sunday through Friday, but doesn't do everything right on Saturday. What would you rather have? That's kind of a good question. Would you rather have somebody who does everything right on game day calling plays or someone who does everything right Sunday through Friday leading up to game day?
See, I think play calling is way overrated. So, I mean, if your game plan includes all the play calling because you foresaw something and you're prepared for every scenario, then you should know exactly what you're going to call. I don't think a lot of coaches, I think this is the most misunderstood aspect of football. I don't think a lot of coaches, let's say it's a key fourth down and 1 at midfield, and you got to get this because you're down 6 and there's 52 seconds left and you don't have any timeouts and you got to get this one. I don't think coaches are thinking, should I go bootleg left? Should I go toss right? Should I go dive A gap? If you don't already know, then you've got a major problem. Now it's different when you go 8 overtimes deep, like that Georgia Tech game. But if you don't already know what you're going to run in most of those situations, then your game plan sucks.
Okay, well, what about this then? Okay, I guess I shouldn't just go. Would you rather have an X's and O's coach or a CEO coach? A good X's and O's guy, but a bad CEO, or a good CEO, but not the best with X's and O's? Because, for example, Steve Spurrier was great with X's and O's, but you would agree he was a horrible CEO type, right? Didn't like to recruit, didn't like to do all the other things that came to coaching.
Okay, you're making me think here because Steve Spurrier is different. Now, all that I just said about game planning, that goes out the window with Steve Spurrier. So I've got a savant, basically, in Steve Spurrier.
Mm-hmm.
Or on the flip side, I've got a Nick Saban that's willing to hire 15,000 analysts and see what bubbles to the top.
Or how about because Nick Saban's in such a class of its own. Let me give you one who I think was a great CEO for a long time. Didn't win a national title, but just because he was at the wrong school. Frank Beamer. I think an incredible CEO, but not the best. Like, it wasn't going to blow you away with his X's and O's.
He had Bud Foster as a defensive coordinator. I mean, I don't like that example as much because I think he should have gone out and found an OC. Can I have
Bobby Bowden?
Okay.
Steve Spurrier or Bobby Bowden?
So would I rather have Bobby Bowden or Steve Spurrier? Because Bobby Bowden's a guy who knows how to run. You know, did you know they left at 5:30 every day because he felt like they needed to spend time with their families?
I did not know that.
No, he had everything buttoned down. So that's a great example. I would rather have Bobby Bowden because I think Steve Spurrier can have his special days, but I think he can have the day like he had hosting Tennessee in 2001 where his ego gets in the way.
Okay, that's fair. So that's where I think, I'm not saying Ryan Day's on Steve Spurrier's level, but I think Ryan Day's kind of more like Steve Spurrier, where he can do the X's and O's right, but he just doesn't do everything else running a program right. Whereas James Franklin is like Bobby Bowden in the sense of he runs a program right. And I'm not saying either's on the coaches. I'm not saying they're on Spurrier Bowden level. Those are like God tier status of the levels we're talking about, right, Dave? But like,
yeah.
But I think James Franklin, on the other hand, is very much run the program the right way as a CEO, but isn't always going to be the smartest X's and O's guy.
Agreed. I think he's more along the lines of, to use your spectrum, he's closer to Bobby Bowden than he is Steve Spurrier. There's not a natural gift of coachness there.
Right.
Exactly. He's just running what his coordinators tell him to. Stay tuned. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Please don't forget to stop by Peak IV Hydration in South Knoxville and Sevierville. Live life to your fullest. Hydrate, rejuvenate, and elevate your health with Peak IV Hydration. That's peakivhydration.com. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, Jacob Warren. Coming up next, banksandjones.com.
I've been in business actually 19 years this year. I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. banksandjones.com. Dave Hooker here for Dynasty Pools and Spas, your home for the best spas and everything you need to jump right in. Relaxing, therapeutic, absolutely. But what sets Dynasty Pools and Spas apart from others is that you get everything with any spa purchase. You get the cover lift, the steps, delivery, and chemicals. When Dynasty Pools and Spas delivers your spa from their Athens location within 125 miles, you'll get your own personal hydrotherapy spa. Mention me, Dave Hooker, or Off the Hook Sports, and get $500 off your top quality new spa. Dynasty Pools and Spas, just off the Athens exit. Drop in and receive a free gift from Off the Hook Sports, Dynasty Pools and Spas. Mention Off the Hook Sports for a drop-in prize and that $500 discount, Dynasty Pools and Spas. To check out some of the Dynasty Spa models and to buy spa chemicals, go to dynastypoolsandspas.com. Dynasty Pools and Spas.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports,
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
I'm so blessed on Twitter, Caleb. I always get these, I don't know if you get them a lot, these message requests. Do you get those a lot on the Twitter?
Sometimes, not a lot. Why?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I was just wondering. I got a few during the break here, and I just thought I'd mention it. Yeah. I mean, she didn't ask if I was married, and she seems a little young, but, you know, she just wants to be a friend request. So that's the way it works, right? I mean, how many of those does that work? Is that a
Oh
way
my
that the kids
gosh.
are using to pick up each other? I don't know. Jacob Warren could tell us. He's younger. Jacob,
No, don't put that on me. No.
yeah.
We're
Twitter
not doing
feed,
that.
is that the new dating app? Is that what's going on there?
Seems to be the case. All the social medias, you got too much access to each other, I think. So
Okay, but for real, like after you scored a touchdown or after you made a big play, and did you ever get a legitimate, not these bot stuff that I'm getting? Did you ever get a tweet from a female fan that just wanted to congratulate you in the most special way?
I'll say no.
I'll say no. Dirty lie.
I'll say no.
That's a dirty lie. You
Not
should
lying. Not lying.
Yes, I'll say no is the way he's phrased that. Okay, let's go to this. Playing on the road has not been Tennessee's forte. I don't know that it's anybody's forte because it's more difficult, more challenging. But as it specifically pertains to this offense, now that we know Tennessee's going to go on the road, how are things more challenging than if that game was to be held at Neyland Stadium?
Personally, I think we've talked about this. I think that is the biggest advantage in all of this is playing the first game at home. For some reason, not even for some reason, obviously it's a great reason. Home field advantage is a serious thing, especially when you get into games of this magnitude, right? Just the fans with the level of their excitement and the players with their level of their excitement, like it truly means a lot more in a big time situation like this. So yeah, you hope to pull the home card, but I think it'll just have to be, I think there's a mentality switch as well, right? When you're on the other side of it is, okay, let's go into their place with their fans on their field and let's just take over, right? Like I think there's no better feeling. It's great to win at home, but there's no better feeling than going on the road and beating a team that either you weren't supposed to beat or, it just was supposed to be a close game and you go out there and you just let them have it on their own field. Like nothing feels better, right? Now you hate that bus ride or that plane ride or whatever, but it feels a lot better after a win than it does after a loss. So I think, just fighting for that feeling and just trying to, just go in there and stick together and put together a good piece of work on the field is going to be the biggest thing.
Jacob, I want to talk a little bit about weather because, there's this whole, you see it a lot from a lot of Big Ten homers, like, if the SEC had to come play in our weather, then, they would struggle.
Exactly how they talk. Exactly.
Big Ten had any of their talent, they would struggle too. Never mind. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, shots across the mouth.
But so here's my honest question. And I actually think, and I want your thoughts on this, based on the way this team is constructed this year, this Tennessee team, that if it's colder in Columbus, it could favor Tennessee, right? Because where do they win the most? Their biggest advantage is in the trenches, isn't it? And doesn't cold weather favor that more than anything else?
Yeah, and I think that cold weather always brings in two things, right? It's very hard to catch the ball, and it's very hard to throw the ball, right? Other than that, like you're just playing ball. And to me, cold weather was always one of those things where you're concerned about it when you're on the sidelines. You're concerned about it in pregame warm-up. But the second that you get on the field, like you just completely forget about how cold it is. Like it's not something you think about. It's not something you feel. And maybe I just haven't played in a cold enough game, but I mean, I'm sure you guys have been up there. Like you go up to Kentucky, you go up to Missouri, kind of some of these later games in the season. And I mean, it's the feel like is in the teens, right? In the 20s and the teens. And I'm like, that's cold to me, right? Because I'm from Tennessee. But you got your heaters on the sidelines, you got your big vest and stuff that you wear, but like you step between the lines and all that stuff truly just fades away. And that's the beauty of the game is like you don't really hear the crowd, you don't really feel the cold. I mean, you might feel in your hands or something, you get hit or something might hurt a little bit more. But I think if you're really locked in and you're really focused on the task, then the weather should not be the biggest concern that you have.
No, and I would argue this too, that maybe in 2022, you guys didn't have the type of team that travels. You kind of had to be hitting on a lot of those long balls, and you tell me if I'm wrong. But this type of team, to me, travels. It plays defense. It can run the football. Those are the things, as much as I love 6-yard touchdown passes and everybody else does. to me, those are the things that can win you an elimination game on the road.
Well, yeah, and I think truly what you're trying to say is this team is complete, right? And this team can control a game. This team has a much better grasp and understanding of how to control a game, how to control clock. That is the biggest situation on the road, like you said, is to be able to, if you're up 2 scores in the first quarter, and being able to say, cool, like y'all aren't, you're not scoring anymore, and we're gonna not hold the ball, but so we're gonna manage this clock, manage this game in a way that, like, yeah, we're in your place, but we're just going to just choke the life out of you and just not let you have it. And then we're going to get on the road. And I think this team is a very, very good example of a team that's able to do that.
Well, let me just ask you that. Is this team better suited to win this type of game than you guys were in 2022?
You see, it just depends. Like, obviously, Ohio State has pretty good defense, right? Like, they're ranked pretty highly in a lot of categories, but offensively, they're still good, right? They still have a great roster, but not quite ranked as high as you want to be, right? So I think even now, but dude, that offense in 2022 was like one of the better ones in the country, right? Points per game, yards per game, passing yard efficiency, all those different things, turnover ratio, like, that offense would have given this defense a very, very big struggle. And I think that it ended up, obviously, who knows, right? But I think our offense would have had a very, very good shot in 2022, but it's different than it is right now, right? And I think we kind of just mentioned that. So I wouldn't give us any better of a chance or any worse of a chance, but I think I'm very, very confident in this team, and I hope that we can go up there and just get it done, man, and just put all of it to bed and just be able to move on to the next round, which I'm sure will come with its struggles as well. But yeah, you just got to get through this one, man. I think just a 1 week seasons, 1 week mentality is going to be what gets you kind of through this long playoff.
Jacob, what about this fact? Because I know you guys practice in the morning, so earlier games may have helped y'all a little bit, but y'all have, at least this team has experience playing at night. 3/4 of the season were 8 o'clock games that they had to deal with, so they're very familiar. As I'm sure the Big Ten is they love their noon kickoffs, which I get it. It's very cold. You don't want to play at night, and also I've told people last week, the culture of the Midwest, they drink so much they are down and asleep by 6 o'clock in the evening.
It's over with.
Yeah, it's
kickoff at noon, recuperator at 8 p.m.
Oh yeah, they get up at 5 a.m. to get hammered, and they're good by noon, and then they're passed out by 5 p.m. Okay, so this game's at 8 o'clock. Do you think Tennessee's experience playing night games this year is going to help them a lot more than Ohio State that's used to those noon kickoffs?
Yeah, for sure. I guess any advantage you can get, or anything that can make you feel more comfortable, right? I think for sure at the beginning of the season, you might be sick of the night games or whatever. But at this point, like you said, we've had so many of them that, who's to say it isn't in our advantage, right? And I think that's just kind of what the guys are used to, and they have this routine that they go through, and it's nice that this will be no different, right? I think it would be for sure much worse if we went into it and played a completely different game time, like an 11 a.m. or something stupid like that, right? Like, I think that would have messed us up more than what's going on now. So, yeah, it might stink to be a night game, or, obviously it's going to be cold, but like I said, it's hopefully those factors just don't come into play whenever the guys are actually on the field doing what they do.
Portions of the program brought to you by Quality Tire Pros, serving Chattanooga's community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive, brake alignments, oil changes, and more. QualityTirePros.com. QualityTirePros.com. Stop by and tell Bo that Dave Hooker and Off the Hook Sports said hello. And also Peak IV Hydration, Jacob. And I've said it before, I use the patches. You've used the actual IVs. They are just fantastic in making you feel better.
Yeah, for sure. And especially, as it gets a little colder, everybody's not sweating as much and not moving around as much. Like, still very, very important to be able to take care of your body, and to just understand where you're at, and to feel your best, and to be moving your best and performing your best if that's what you're into. So for sure, man, click the link once it's in the chat, and give them a look, man. Read up on it, get you some patches, maybe go in there and visit them. Great staff, very friendly. It's safe, it's secure. There's nothing to worry about with anything. So would very much highly encourage you guys to go check them out.
Great stuff, buddy. We will talk to you soon. Thank you, Jacob.
Of course. Yeah. Take care.
GFL Jacob Warren, loved visiting with him. The show represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. All right, Caleb. So as we continue to move along, we did a post-game show on the College Football Playoff Selection Committee show. You've had a little bit more time to digest it before we move on. Is there anything else that kind of surprised you, that maybe threw you off about the way the whole process went down?
Well, yeah, we're going to do a segment on this soon, but just it didn't surprise me, but I think that they did exactly what I expected them to do with how they did everything. But I'm not going to be critical of how they did it yesterday, but I'm going to be critical of the process because they did something that ruined the sport yesterday. I'll just say it. They did.
You said it so nice. You're like, I'm not going to do anything that, might be too great of a thing, but I do have something I want to mention. They're going to ruin the sport. That's kind of how you delivered it. You delivered it like this, like a news tease. You'll appreciate this. While there's something in your home that could be killing you and you don't even know it, and you're probably using it right now. More after this.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, you're like, what am I using? All right. So, but coming up, we're going to get into why Tennessee should have probably just played Kent State 3 straight times instead of another team. That'll be What the H, and that'll be brought to you by Medicare Misty. And then let's get to this day in Tennessee sports history. Caleb Calhoun, what do you got this day in Tennessee sports history?
This is actually a happy birthday today. A player you covered, Dave, who is one of the, I know you don't like the word overachiever, but I find him to be one of the biggest overachievers in Tennessee history because he had an NFL career. But it's happy birthday to Denarius Moore, who is 36 today. Denarius Moore was only a 3-star receiver when he came out, and he became Tennessee's go-to receiver and became a 7-year starter in the NFL after he played at Tennessee.
If you're that fast, you can't be in the overachiever category.
Oh, I didn't. Okay. I didn't see him as that. I thought Gerald Jones was always faster or more athletic than him.
I thought Denarius Moore was better. I thought that Gerald ran better routes and had better hips. But the show represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Coming up on the program, we're going to get into the college football playoff. Did they reward easy schedules to a fault? What the H? Stay tuned. The show represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beat. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute best in fire prevention.
With our brand new location on Emory Road, Eye Care Optical is bringing East Tennessee's best eye care to your neighborhood. Doctors Johnston and Combs offer unmatched expertise and care without a trip to Knoxville. Eye Care Optical, now in Powell.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at NFC1.com or stop by any one of our 7 East Tennessee locations.
When the lights turn on and the game begins, you need a team that gets the job done. It's Ford commercial truck season at Ray Varner Ford in Clinton, where our strong lineup is built for power and performance. Step up your game in this new 24 F-150 4x4 Super Crew, $46,997. Transit 250 cargo van, $50,950. 24 Ford Maverick XLT Hybrid, $28,929.
Local you trust, performance you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, built for the game.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win, banksjones.com.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I don't say this enough, but we appreciate it when you click that thumbs up button and when you subscribe, and also when you set the notifications on so you'll know that we're going to have Cooper Mace on here before long to get his thoughts on playing in Ohio State. How concerned are you? Because I did talk to a lot of people on campus that were really hoping for a home game at Neyland Stadium. I don't want to say that was their goal, because your goal is to win a national title, but just a lot of people say, if I could just take this, I would take that. I mean, does that filter down to the fans? How big of a concern do you think that might be of a kind of a gut shot?
I don't think it's much of a concern. I think, remember, before the second to last week of the regular season, Tennessee was on the outside looking into the playoffs. So being able to actually get into the playoff alone, I think they'll take. And they just missed the home field advantage. And there were some things that went into play for that, again, I think we have talked about were not necessarily of Tennessee's making. So I don't think it'll be a gut punch. I think in many ways they see it, Dave, maybe I'm crazy, but many of them seem to see this as an opportunity, honestly, to go to Ohio. And like you talk about it, yeah, getting a home game is great for recruiting purposes. You know what's better? Having your fans fill up another stadium and then you go win that game.
It's pretty true. We're at the H, and it's brought to you. Who is it brought to you by? Our good friend at Medicare Misty. Does that sound good?
Oh, that sounds great.
What the H?
What the? What was he thinking?
Release the hounds.
The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
Okay. It looks like to me that it's pretty darn obvious that the college football playoff rewarded easy schedules. So I want to ask our listeners, who I've said before are the smartest in the biz, and our viewers, is that what you want? Do you want to feel more like Tennessee did and that you're in, or do you want to feel more like, I don't know, Alabama, Miami over the past couple of weeks? You're not sure, but you can hang your hat on the fact that you've had a very solid season. And I'm not even using them as an example. Okay, Caleb, I'm saying if you rehauled the non-conference schedule, is that what Tennessee fans want? And I'm asking sincerely. I haven't sat in the stands more than twice in the past 25 years. So I don't know the game experience anymore, but I know that it's probably a lot more fun when you're, say, playing Miami than when you're, say, playing Kent State. So let's start by unpacking that with, did the College Football Playoff Committee just reward easy schedules, and is that cool?
Yes, they did. And no, it's not cool. I mean, now, I understand why they did the rankings they did yesterday, because their philosophy is you can't punish teams for losing your conference title game having played it. Fine. But, and I may make a lot of enemies on this show right now, but I'm going to say it. You can't rationally look at Alabama and SMU and say that Alabama should not have been the last team in over SMU. I mean, you can't seriously look at those two teams' resumes, Dave, and forget resume, because people will say it's got to be eye test, and you got to point out Alabama, Oklahoma. Fine, but if it's about eye test, it's who do you think would win on a neutral field? Dave, let me ask you: if Alabama played SMU on a neutral field, who do you think Vegas would favor?
Alabama, yeah, all over.
Significantly so, right? They might be a double-digit favorite.
I mean, here's the way. I'll go ahead and tell you the way that SMU's college football playoff is going to end. it's going to end with about a 55-10 thumping. And the reason it's going to end that way is because they're going to bump into a team that does have the big nasties that I wrote about that are more prevalent in the South. And Nick Saban, if you want to go back and watch the very end of that show, basically where they tell him sayonara, I don't know if he's going to be on the post-game shows. He's just telling you, it's the interior linemen on both sides that are going to determine this thing. But go ahead.
Yeah, it is. And it's, they have beaten 0 top 30 teams this year, SMU. 0. You can say what you want about Alabama. Alabama's beaten 4. And I mean, this is where, and it's not about, and I want to make this clear because I think, Dave, let me point this out. It's not about the conference you're in, okay? Because yes, the SEC is the toughest conference, but you can play a really easy, the scheduling imbalance allows you to play a really easy SEC schedule. The SEC is tougher than the Big Ten. I think we would both agree Ohio State played a way tougher schedule than Texas, though. Not even close. Even though the SEC is tougher than the Big Ten, because Texas got the easiest draw in the SEC. Ohio State got the toughest draw for the Big Ten of the Big Ten games. So it's not about the conferences. It's just about who you play. SMU got the easiest ACC draw possible. They avoided Clemson in the regular season. They avoided Miami in the regular season. Guess what? They lost to Clemson in the playoff. The best team they played all year, the only top 30 team they played was BYU, and they lost. And somehow BYU. So if we're going to say SMU should get in, you should say BYU should get in because BYU beat Clemson head-to-head. They both have 2 losses. This is the flaw with this whole system. They just rewarded record. And I'm not just going to go to SMU here. Okay? I'm going to be honest. It was kind of ridiculous that last week until had Georgia lost on Saturday, Dave, they would have been behind Notre Dame and Penn State. That's absolutely ridiculous. Notre Dame and Penn State each have 1 loss, but they've played Georgia has the toughest strength of schedule in the country, and it's not even close. You can make an argument that Georgia should be the number 1 overall seed. And I think 10-2 with Georgia's schedule is way more impressive than 12-0 with Oregon's schedule. And so at some point, what the college football playoff has just done, they've just sent a big fat message, guys. Schedule every patsy possible out of conference. Like you just said, Dave, if you're Tennessee, play Kent State at home 4 times. Who cares? Because they made that very clear.
Okay. Do you think there's a difference? And I want to ask you this on the poll. Do you go to games and you would be disappointed by getting all your gear out and spending those thousands of dollars? Or do you have a nice man cave and you watch games and you would rather see nobody's talking about anything crazy, but what's a game? Just give me a good non-conference game. I guess either 2 North Carolina states or an Oregon, so 1 elite one or 2 pretty good ones. Or do you even care? If you don't even care, then Tennessee's doing the right thing, because until something changes in the college football playoff, they're going to continue to make it. Your thoughts on that, brought to you by Medicare Misty.
I've been in business actually 19 years this year. I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to put on our poll question. I'm really curious where you're going to end up on that, so please vote on it. And it's just this. Do you care about Vols' non-conference schedule? So, yes, too many boring games. No, just win and get to the college football playoff. Now, ideally, you would do both, right, Caleb? You would beat a Miami, you'd beat a North Carolina State, and you'd say, wow, what a run. That was awesome. If it hadn't been for that Arkansas game. But anyway, you'd be standing at 10-2 with wins over Miami, and you would be able to pound your fist and say, by gosh, maybe not number 1, but I deserve to be in the top 4 because look at who I played. So I'm trying to think of this pragmatically, because pragmatically, you've got a tough argument on your hands. Because pragmatically, I should play 4 patsies and end up at the top of the rankings at the end of the year. Tennessee proved you could lose 2 games and still be almost in the top 4. So I'm trying to defend your argument pragmatically, but I still just don't understand how you quite play it like that.
let me ask you this question. I'm going to give you a quick story because I know about it. Stephen A. Smith rants about it all the time, but it was a very famous moment in baseball. You're a big Yankees fan, right, Dave?
Yes.
There was a game, and it was back in 2002. It was the height of the Barry Bonds, like, steroid infused, whatever you want to say about him on words. He was putting on a show. He was fun to watch, wasn't he?
Yes.
The Yankees it was one of those interleague games one time. The Yankees welcomed the Giants to the Bronx. And the Bronx just sold out. Everybody it's because, American League, National League, they don't get to see Barry Bonds that often. So, I mean, the ticket sales went through the roof. They packed the stadium to watch it. The Yankees walked Barry Bonds every time in that game. Now, here's my question. If you're a Yankee fan, did you pay to see Barry Bonds or did you pay to see the Yankees win? Do you feel cheated because they walked Barry Bonds all 4 times, or are you happy because the Yankees won that day? That's the question you're asking, isn't it?
I think it is. Yeah. Is that good enough?
I mean, and here's the problem. The College Football Playoff did this, and I think Tennessee fans and fans everywhere are going to say, schedule the Patsies. Indiana. Do you think Indiana fans care? Guys, Indiana, I shouldn't actually pick on SMU because SMU actually has a better resume than Indiana. And this is what I talk about, Dave. ACC versus Big Ten. Big Ten's better, but Indiana's schedule's worse than SMU's.
It's a really well-written question. Do you care about Vols non-conference schedule? Yes, too many boring games. I think you got the point. No, just win and get to college football playoff with 37% of the vote. Let me flip this on your head a little bit. There's a difference between 2 losses and 3, right? So I can tell you that Alabama, just because they lost one more game, doesn't deserve in over any 2-loss team. I can at least make that argument, and it's pretty easy to make, right?
Yes.
Okay. So didn't the committee, with all the things that they showed us about non-conference is not important, didn't they also show us that with 10-2, if you're in a major conference, you're going to get in?
No, because they didn't put Miami in.
What's that?
They didn't put Miami in.
Okay.
Miami's 10-2.
Well, perhaps you didn't understand me. I said major conference.
So you mean the top 2?
Yeah. Big Ten, SEC. But no, you're right. I forgot about Miami. So didn't they send the statement that you're going to make it? So why not schedule somebody that's a little bit better? And what kind of opponent would we even be talking about that's a little bit better?
Why not schedule somebody that's going to be a little bit better?
I mean, are we talking a Notre Dame?
No.
There's actually a bit of a history there.
First of all, you're Tennessee. You're going to play Alabama and Georgia every year, right? That's already baked into your schedule, right?
Yes.
That's already, I just need, you automatically, no matter what, you automatically will play more quality teams than Indiana had to play this year, who only played 1 in Ohio State. Let me just break down Alabama versus Indiana. Alabama's getting criticized for losing to 6-6 Oklahoma and 6-6 Vanderbilt on the road, right?
Yes.
Indiana's 3 best wins are Michigan, Washington, and Nebraska, all at home. Let me ask you this, Dave, and this is an honest question. Would you rather play one of those teams at home or Vanderbilt and Oklahoma on the road? I'd rather play one of those teams at home this year, including Michigan.
Yeah, but how are you messing with conference games? That's where you're losing me here.
The reason I'm bringing this up is because if you're not going to reward the brutal conference schedules teams have, because Alabama had the most brutal conference schedule, plus they went to Wisconsin out of conference and blew them out, why should then Alabama or anybody from the SEC, why should the SEC move to 9 games? No one's going to agree to that. Why add an extra SEC game that's going to be tough? And 2, why play anybody tough out of conference? And this was my argument with, a lot of Big Ten fans tried to say in the past, well, we play 9 conference games and the SEC plays 8. But that extra conference game you play is Northwestern or, a really bad UCLA team this year. It's not the same. And I'm not trying to demean the Big Ten at all on this, but what I am saying is it's, again, your schedule. Indiana played 9 Big Ten games. 8 of them were against the 8 worst teams in the Big Ten. And then their non-conference schedule, they picked Florida International, Western Illinois, and Charlotte. Okay? Should they not be punished for that when Alabama went to Wisconsin and blew them out? No,
Let me ask you a question. If North Carolina State is 8-4 instead of 6-6 is Tennessee hosting a playoff game?
No, it's still not enough of a quality win.
Okay, but how close are we talking? If
We're
Arkansas finishes 2 games better, if North Carolina State finishes 2 games better,
then it gets really close because Tennessee and Ohio State, the difference was very, very minuscule. And see, I'm not attacking Ohio State because Ohio State played the toughest Big Ten schedule. And I know you could say I get what you're saying, Dave, because you're about who you can choose to play and who you can't choose to play. But I am going on basically who you play. And the reason you schedule tough out of conference is because just in case your conference schedule turns out to be easy, you've beefed up your resume without a conference games.
Yeah.
Why worry about that anymore? Honest, this is not a question, Dave. What would you do if you're Tennessee? Or if you're Alabama? Do you think Alabama's ever going to schedule Wisconsin again after what just happened to them this year?
No, I would still schedule somebody better than North Carolina State. I don't know where that is.
I would go for patsies. And I would say we're just leaning on the precedent set by Indiana, who got into last year while scheduling Pat. And I would call them out. I'd be like, we're just doing what Indiana did, guys. We're just doing what Indiana and SMU did. Okay. And I'm sorry, neither of those teams, maybe even SMU, but Indiana, you can't tell me they belong in the playoff. And they got a 9 seed or 10 seed.
Okay. Bank on it. I'm going to tell you the reason that they're not going to do that in 30 seconds.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank.
So here's the reason they won't, is because within 5 to 8 years, you're going to have 2 mega conferences in the Big Ten and the SEC. And that's the way the AL and NL are right now. And they're going to set up playing each other. And that's going to be your 2 mega conferences. Now, some other teams could slip in there, but you're not going to have to worry about scheduling for much longer.
I think you're probably right. But I think I'll tell you this. I think it's being fast-tracked right now because I don't, again, I have a lot of criticisms for how he's handled things, but how do you think Greg Sankey feels sitting here on a Monday saying, I've got the toughest league. We gave ESPN so much money this year with all of our marquee games and the things we did scheduling out of conference, and you couldn't even put Alabama in the playoff for us against SMU. You couldn't do us that solid. You know Greg Sankey's thinking that right now.
Probably not happy. Yes.
And yeah, so I just wanted to also end with this too. If someone just brought this up on the message board, and you're right, Tennessee plays NC State, wins 51-10. They're in. If they play another Division II school in place of NC State, they're in with the same record at the same seed. However, if they played at Notre Dame instead of NC State and lost, they're out of the playoff. They're not that's the problem with they're not factoring in schedule strength at all. And that's the problem.
This day in Tennessee sports history coming up.
We already did that. It's stat of the day.
Oh, sorry. Stat of the day coming up, brought to you by Double D Piping.
Double D Piping provides full service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute best.
Stat of the day is, Caleb?
When Tennessee faces Ohio State in 2 weeks, it will be their first ever official road game against a Big Ten school.
Well, I guess that's right.
Because they have played teams that are in the Big Ten on the road, like UCLA, but they weren't in the Big Ten when they played them. And so it is their first ever official road game against a Big Ten school.
Man, he's good. Stay tuned. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, Banks & Jones. CFB.com. Coming up is the segment that I've been looking forward to the most. We're going to discuss some transfer portals. I'll give you some insight as to why these two cats left. Also, we'll talk some Tennessee basketball. Lady Vols also beat Iowa. Stay tuned. Hit the like button if you don't mind. The show is always represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
24 F-150 4x4 Super Crew, $46,997. 24 Ford Transit 250 Cargo Van, $50,950. 24 Ford Maverick XLT Hybrid, $28,929. Local you trust, power you can afford.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
With our brand new location on Emory Road, Eye Care Optical is bringing East Tennessee's best eye care to your neighborhood. Doctors Johnston and Combs offer unmatched expertise and care without a trip to Knoxville. Eye Care Optical, now in Powell.
Double D Piping provides full service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute best in fire prevention.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on offthehooksports.com.
So repeat the stat of the day. It's pretty phenomenal.
When Tennessee visits Ohio State in 2 Saturdays from now, it will be their first ever official road game against a school in the Big Ten.
That is just hard to believe. I spent most of the break trying to think of how you could be wrong.
You could have caught me with all the times Tennessee went to the Rose Bowl back in the day to face UCLA, but UCLA was never in the Big Ten during those times.
That's true. Okay, Vols lose a couple of transfer portals. Go ahead and give me their names, and I'll tell you what I've heard about what they lost.
Yeah, so Tennessee over the weekend lost 2 more players to the transfer portal. They lost Jordan Matthews at defensive back and Jalen Smith at linebacker. Both happened on Friday. That's 3 and 4 number transfer portal loss number 3 and number 4. It happens just as the transfer portal opens today, because as I have talked about at length, college football powers that be have decided that December should be a time when people who cover the sport don't get to sleep. And
the loss of Jordan Matthews, well, frankly, both of these guys, I think are a significant loss. And the way we've judged this to this point is who's Tennessee lost to this point? Khalifa Keith, the running back, and
no, they've lost 5. They have lost Vyson Lang, Khalifa Keith, Caleb Webb, Jordan Matthews, Jalen Smith.
Okay, let's so the first 3. We'll get into Jordan and Jalen. Okay, so the first 3, I get it. Keith was at best going to play 10 plays a game in some sort of power running back thing that they were going to unveil. Are they really that worried about that when they're trying to get a quarterback ready to play, offensive tackles ready to play? I don't think he felt like he was a priority, and I totally get it. Not surprised. Bison Lang, I thought, was a questionable pickup when they got him. I'm not surprised, and I'm not trying to be mean to the young man. And then Caleb Webb, I thought, here's a guy who is kind of on that fence. He shows up to your place. He doesn't hit the ground running. And by ground running, I'm talking about basically what Mike Matthews did. Okay. I think it's become pretty apparent that it takes some time to get used to this offense. I don't care if you play offensive line or if you play receiver, Caleb. I think it takes some time. But I thought Caleb Webb could be a guy that would contribute for 2 years. I think the same about Jordan Matthews. And I'm close to saying the same thing about Jalen Smith. So I'm going to tell you these are 3 guys they did not want walking out the door, because that's where I ultimately have my scale. If a guy can show up, prepare himself for 2 years, and be a 2-year contributor, that's a win in high school recruiting. But the kids don't want to stay that long, so sometimes you don't find out. In other words, I think the last 3 they've lost have been significant.
Okay, so
not huge, but just you might look to the sideline and think, man, this would be the time when Caleb Webb would help us out. I don't think you would have ever said that with Bison Lang or Khalifa Keith.
Well, I missed on Jordan Matthews. I thought Jordan Matthews was actually a potential star when Tennessee got him. And it looks like Ricky Gibson beat him out, and they went and got Jermod McCoy. Wish him all the best. I think, there's something to be said about the fact that maybe he committed just based on, shall we say, NIL money, Dave. I've heard some reports on that. But I think with Jalen Smith, I'll say this.
Matthews?
I'm sorry?
With Matthews?
Yeah, Matthews, I think, committed to Tennessee based on NIL money.
Yeah, I've heard that rumor that it was an NIL decision. But nevertheless, I mean, that's part of recruiting. So,
yeah, exactly. So
I hesitate to say you would make an NIL decision if Sports Illustrated called and said, hey, how about a $750,000 a year salary?
Well, I could probably do that and do this still. So,
It's good. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I think that Jalen Smith, Tennessee's picked up 4 linebackers in this recruiting class. So let's think about Tennessee's future real quick. Arian Carter and Jeremiah Thielander are both young, and both are going to be there for the next 2 years.
I think Arian could be a 1 more year and done gone.
Okay, Arian's 1 more year. Jeremiah Thielander's at least 2 more years. On top of that, they have 4 linebackers coming in: Christian Gass, Jaden Harmon, Brendan Ains, and Jaden Perlow. 3 of them are, depending on the service you use, are a variety of 4 stars in Gass, Harmon, and Perlow. When you take that into account, I think Jalen Smith is seeing that these guys are just going to beat me. And so I actually think that's the biggest reason he hit the portal, is I think that he sees the linebackers coming in. Now, I'll say what's kind of interesting and kind of weird is that you used to spend a little more time because you wanted to see how a lot of early enrollees, players who are enrolled, that could take part in bowl practices now. And so you could see them in bowl practice and see if they were going to supplant you. Like, for instance, one of the biggest reasons I was high on Nico, Taven Jackson hit the portal like that when Nico arrived. And everything I had heard, and I think you had heard the same thing, Dave, this was during the December bowl practices for the Orange Bowl against Clemson 2 years ago. All reporting I had heard was that Nico was just blowing everybody away during that time in practice. And I think that sent Taven Jackson to the portal. I'm surprised if Jalen Smith did it for the current crop of incoming recruits because of the fact that he hasn't seen them practice yet. But at the same time, if you're Tennessee, Dave, let's throw this out. Bowl practices aren't like bowl practices anymore. This is a playoff practice. You know what I mean? So you're not working with young guys. The last couple of years, bowl practices, you're kind of working with young guys, aren't you? Just to see your future. Now you're actually. And
along those lines, I mean, is it in poor taste to announce at any time? I mean, you have to announce sometime, but your team still. I mean, what if 2 linebackers went down and they said, Jalen, we gotta have you. Oh, I gotta get out of that transfer portal there. I mean, is that not weird to me?
Well,
to you?
Here's the problem. The transfer portal window is open at the same time the college football playoff is going on.
Yes, that is the problem.
So,
way to go there, Caleb. That's what I was trying to point
yeah,
out.
you don't have a choice if you're a player and you need to transfer though. What do you do? Like, do you say, "Oh, I'm gonna look out for the best interest of my team, and then I'll stay," but then the window closes, the playoff's still going, and you're now stuck with the school for another spring, basically. When you'd, that's kind of, Dave, I got to be honest. Can you blame the player? If they know they're not going to play and they want to look somewhere, they'd rather go ahead and transfer in the winter so they can do spring workouts with the school they're going to go to. Well, they kind of have to transfer during the college football playoff, don't they?
I guess, but you'd have to agree with me. It feels a little icky, doesn't it?
It does, but blame the NCAA. Don't blame the players. And I can't even blame the NCAA. What is anybody supposed to do? Unfortunately, for most colleges, semesters end in December. All right, I got a quick fix for it, Dave. Ready?
Yes.
In the first semester in January. And have I don't know. Don't actually in the semester. Maybe end it in November. I don't know. Don't end it in December. Can you do that? Can you do that with colleges?
Are you talking about moving around the class schedule to better accommodate college football? No.
Yes, I am talking about moving around the class schedule to better accommodate college football.
No,
or here's the other part. Wait, here's the other part. And this is the other big one. And I got to make this clear. Don't start spring classes until after the national championship ends.
Okay, stop. The UPS store Hardin Valley, helping individuals and small businesses, wide range of products and services locally owned and operated. The link is right down below. The Hardin Valley UPS store. Okay. So what do we do next? What if Christmas gets in the way? Should we move Christmas as well?
I mean, basically.
What if seriously, I'm being dead serious. If the best TV window for most viewers is 7 p.m. on Christmas Eve and 7 p.m. on Christmas Day, should we just rearrange our entire schedule and not celebrate the night before Christmas? And I'm sure Quincy will be very disappointed. And he's just 7 months old, and his first Christmas is going to be watching college football and not opening presents because you think that you should just move Christmas.
Move Christmas for football. I mean, look, in all seriousness, I at the root of it, I complained about the NCAA calendar, Dave. This one, there's no one's fault. There's no way around the fact that the coaching carousel, the transfer portal, and the playoff are going to be around the same time. Is there? You can't get around it, can you? There's no way to fit. You can't fix anything with regards to that.
No, you can't.
And so,
go ahead.
The one thing you could do is move the early signing period. When you got all that going on, the early signing day is just insane. But I get the playoff, the transfer portal, and the what was the other thing I said? The coaching carousel. There's nothing you can do to change that. It's just naturally going to fall in December now. So my only option, maybe make the transfer portal window a little later. Because I would assume, Dave, that I don't know, maybe make it later to where okay, once you're in the Final Four, so I guess early January before classes start, but after the first round of the playoffs end. So
I've always thought the first Wednesday in August and the first Wednesday in February.
Okay. Yeah, no, for the signing day, that's perfect.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah. Because the first Wednesday for signing day, and what that would do is for the Cooper Mazes of the world, they know they're going to Tennessee. They have their scholarship there. Now, some guys it may make lazy down the line, so that wouldn't be Cooper, but you do need to work during your senior year and continue to improve. But the thing is, with the transfer portal, you could boot them after a year. So you sign the guys that are all Vol through and through. Now, I was told by somebody in Tennessee's recruiting office 15 years ago that this would destroy Tennessee recruiting because of the advantage that they had in bringing players to games, that was a big selling point. But my take is, if you did it on the first Wednesday of August, you're only getting the diehards. You're only getting the guy that grew up in Knoxville, that's dad played for Tennessee, and then you take maybe 10 off the table, not 20 like they are in the early signing period now. So you don't have to worry about recruiting those guys. You focus on the next signing period, which is the first week in February. Boom, that's how I'd fix it.
I think that's a perfect fix. I agree. And I'm going to fix the transfer portal.
Exhausting being so right all the time.
I'm going to fix the transfer portal too with you at the same time.
Yes.
Just have the transfer portal. Just one, don't make the players go to class when they're playing football during that period. Just don't have, they don't take classes during the fall. So they don't have to wait till the semester ends to transfer.
I'm fine with them not going to class right now. I mean, the janitor doesn't have to go to class. They're paid employees now. You don't make other people go to class that work there. The support staff on all the different places, I'm sure they've got an HVAC person. He doesn't have to go to class. I mean, none of these guys have to go to class. They're paid employees, for the love of goodness.
Yeah. No, I agree.
What are we talking about? If they have to go to class, then it's just then the hypocrisy will not die.
It won't. And this is during football season. During football season, no class. Problem solved. That way you don't have to wait till the semester ends to transfer. You can transfer at any point during the season.
Let me ask all of you. Can we make this a poll question? I would rather my favorite Vol recuperate, because I'm telling you, there's times I talk to Cooper Mays, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, Integrity Matters, cityheatandair.com. And I feel like I'm talking to a guy who has just been hit by a truck. And we've moved it from Sundays where we used to do it because of so many night games. And how about
I'd rather my favorite Vol spend the week going to class or recuperating from the last game.
I love it.
And I'd rather them recuperate from the last game. I'll just be honest with you.
I'm totally with you. Brought to you by Double D Piping.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute best.
All right, so what's the poll question?
I would rather my favorite Vol spend the week going to class or recuperating from the last game.
Okay, we'll have the answers right after this. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute best in fire prevention.
With our brand new location on Emory Road, Eye Care Optical is bringing East Tennessee's best eye care to your neighborhood. Doctors Johnston and Combs offer unmatched expertise and care without a trip to Knoxville. Eye Care Optical, now in Powell.
Are you ready to get strong? At
Dave
NFC,
Hooker Show,
we offer top-notch weight
represented by
training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at NFC1.com or stop by any one of our 7 East Tennessee locations.
When the lights turn on and the game begins, you need a team that gets the job done. It's Ford commercial truck season at Ray Varner Ford in Clinton, where our strong lineup is built for power and performance. Step up your game in this new 24 F-150 4x4 Super Crew, $46,997. It's at 250 cargo van, $50,950. 24 Ford Maverick XLT Hybrid, $28,929.
Local you trust, performance you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, built for the game.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
He is Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker, the show represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Also want to thank our fantastic friends at the Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com, Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. And if you're shopping online, you should certainly check out Hound Dogs of Knoxville. Hound Dogs of Knoxville, champions look good in orange. HDKnoxville.com. HDKnoxville.com. Yeah, one of the things I want to say real quick, if Tennessee wins a national championship and they don't have a parade down Gay Street, I'm going to flip my lid. Okay? Because they didn't in the last one. And they kept saying they were going to. And they never had a parade. They managed one for the baseball team. Tennessee doesn't. And I know kids go home, wherever they go. But like we just pointed out, they shouldn't be going to class in the first place. So if they don't have a big parade down Gay Street, I'm going to be very disappointed. You?
Yeah, I would. They absolutely should have the parade. Philip Fulmerton, this is kind of it's kind of sad that he did this when you actually think about the results after the national title. But after the national title, he wanted to focus so heavily on recruiting that he barely celebrated. He had a day later, he just was on the road recruiting. And the reason it's sad is because he never ever he recruited. You recruit for your future, Dave, and he never enjoyed the success of that in his future.
Yeah, I've talked to him about that, and he says I should have taken more time to smell the roses a little bit. But you have to go recruit, and I don't begrudge him for not recruiting. I begrudge the city of Knoxville for being so stunned. I mean, I knew football at the time, and I was like, "There's no way that Tennessee is going to lose this," because I just wrote the column on Saturday. They have better big nasties in the interior, both offensive and defensive line. I had zero doubt that yes.
But you remember, Dave, that year, Florida State carried with them an allure by that point under Bobby Bowden that just made it seem like Tennessee was like it. Even though Tennessee was undefeated at number one, it looked way more like Tennessee didn't belong than Florida State didn't belong. And then to the national media ahead of the national title game, you'd have felt like Tennessee was like the newcomer that lucked their way in, and Florida State, oh, this is just what they do. You know what I mean?
Okay, I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, because there were a lot of people in Knoxville and beyond that felt like Tennessee somehow stumbled its way in that game. But to me, it was the most absurd thing I had ever heard in my life. I thought there were much tougher matchups that Tennessee could have drawn than Florida State. I thought Tennessee had enough speed on the outside, maybe not as much depth of speed. I thought that Tennessee was going to be better on the interior of both offensive and defensive lines. I didn't think it'd be as close as it was, to be real honest with you. But
and it really wasn't. They Tennessee kind of ran out the clock late in the game. A couple of fluke plays, Tennessee has the ball on inside the 2-yard line, and Travis Henry fumbles. I mean, before they're about to run the clock out. So I think Tennessee had complete control of that game.
Yeah, I don't gamble, and you do, but there are some games that I get just a lock feeling on that was just one of those games. It played out exactly how I thought.
I actually think I talk about how bad the Florida Tennessee line of 0-1, I say, is the worst line in history, when Florida was favored by 18 over Tennessee. I think the Florida State Tennessee line of 98 may actually be worse. Florida State was favored by 5 going into that game.
Well,
I don't know who could have thought Florida State should have been favored by 5, having watched those two teams play all year.
And what's the latest we've got on the Tennessee Ohio State line?
Last I checked, it was still a touchdown and a half. I can pull it up again on FanDuel as we're talking here, but
Let's I want to take a look at that. And then I want to talk some Tennessee basketball, because Tennessee, how will they handle being number one when they visit Miami? I think it's good that you have leadership on this team. This is not a group of a bunch of one and dones like John Calipari likes to put together. I think they have some leadership in Ziegler and some other older players. So I'm not really concerned about their leadership. You phrased the question like this, Caleb. Are you? I mean, because I guess it is a young basketball team. Anybody can get the big head, but boy, if you're thinking about what you're doing in early December, then you've got your eye on the wrong prize.
Yes. So Tennessee, you're right. And sorry, I was just pulling up the lines real quick from FanDuel. But Tennessee they were number 3 last week, so they enter Monday likely number 1 across all rankings everywhere. And at that ranking, Tennessee is going to face Miami on Tuesday in the Jimmy V Classic, which is going to be a game. And I'm trying to pull it up now, but it's going to be a game in Madison Square Garden. They're going to play it at the Garden Tuesday evening at 6:30 against Miami when Tennessee.
It's not like they're playing at the Powell Middle School gym. How did you not know it was at the Garden?
Because I forgot where the Jimmy V Classic is.
No, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so Miami, and it's going to be on ESPN.
It's the most popular basketball venue in the world, but anyway.
It's going to be on ESPN, and I'm just going to say Miami is a very, very bad basketball team. They have lost 6 straight going into this game. They are 3-6. They've lost to Drake, Oklahoma State, VCU, Charleston Southern, Arkansas, and Clemson in their last 6 games. So they are not a good basketball team. However, the question becomes, how do you, if you're Tennessee, handle the expectations of being number 1? Because Dave, can I give you a you like to give Uncle Dave stories? Can I give you a history lesson on my own? And I'm not
Cousin Caleb story.
Cousin Caleb. There we go. Yeah, right. Sounds younger. Sounds fresher, right?
Yes.
2008, Tennessee plays Memphis in basketball. Tennessee's number 2, Memphis is number 1. They go to Memphis. They beat them at Memphis. It's the biggest college basketball regular season game I've ever witnessed in the state of Tennessee. You remember that game, right?
Oh, yeah.
And Tennessee's number 1 on Monday. What do? They lose to Vanderbilt on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm. But that was a good Vanderbilt team. I mean, I'm not saying that they're going to win against Miami, and then they're just suddenly going to win it all, and that's going to propel them to Hoosier-like heights.
Okay, I agree. But Dave, 2019 becomes the second time in history they reached number 1. They reached number 1. Their first game at number 1 is at a very bad Vanderbilt team. A Vanderbilt team that finished 9-23 and 0-18 in SEC play. And they still needed 43 points from Grant Williams, including 24 free throws made. He made all 24, by the way, in an incredibly clutch game to beat them in overtime that day. So, and that was not the Vanderbilt team you're talking about the first time they were number 1. This was a bad Vanderbilt team. Once you hit number 1, man, it becomes really hard to deal with that pressure immediately. And particularly if you're not used to it.
Really?
Why did they almost lose to Vanderbilt in 2019? A bad Vanderbilt team.
Well, I mean, I think that they spent a lot of emotional energy in that Memphis game. I don't think just because you have number 1 next to your name that
I'm not talking about
I don't believe in that whole other teams give you their best shot. Tennessee's already at that level. People know that.
I'm not.
Yes.
I'm not talking about Memphis of 2008. I'm talking about 2019, where they didn't have an emotional win to get to number 1. They just climbed the ladder to get to number 1 as other teams lost. And then their first game as number 1, they almost lost to a bad Vanderbilt team with Grant Williams.
Listen, if Rick Barnes doesn't know his way to navigate around that old trick and that pitfall, then I would be stunned. He's a 70-year-old man. I mean, I think that's just everything you gave me. I think is just coincidence. Do you really believe that they get number 1? And you're talking about over a series of players. These aren't just one player. It's not just one player, but you're talking about, because you would have to be saying that Rick Barnes gets the heebie-jeebies when he's number 1. Is that what you're telling me?
I think sometimes players do when they're not used to being number 1. And also, and I'm going to say this, college basketball is very similar to college football in this way, in that you are not always what your record says. Okay. So I want to point that out, because Miami's on a 6-game losing streak, Dave. Every team they have lost to has been relatively close, and they're all really, 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 really good, except for Clemson, where they lost by 10. But Clemson's 9-1. Clemson's 9-1.
So are you arguing that they're losing because they feel the pressure of falling outside the top 25, or that they average 9 turnovers per game?
I'm arguing that Miami's better than their 3-6 record indicates, and that they could be capable of pulling off an upset here or there, and that they'll be excited to play the number 1 team, and that Tennessee may, having had a long layoff, may feel themselves a little bit being number 1 and could be in danger of losing this game if they're not careful.
Okay.
Now,
seems like a little bit of a reach to me. I'm just going to tell you.
Now, let me tell it to you this way.
Tennessee's going to beat them by 30 points.
Okay, and I could see that too, by the way. Let me give you one thing in Tennessee's favor that actually the other team don't have. You talk about one and dones being a problem. It's not that one and dones are the problem. It's that one and done freshmen are a problem. Tennessee, it's not about team chemistry. That Tennessee team in 2018, 2019 was loaded with chemistry because those guys had been there for 3 and 4 years, but the biggest stars were 3-year guys, juniors. The biggest stars on this year's team, Dave, are 5th-year seniors. Now, you were in college. I was in college. You've covered college athletes. I've covered college athletes. Let's be honest, Dave. There is a gigantic difference in maturity between a 5th-year senior and a true junior, right?
That's very true.
This Tennessee team is led by Chaz Lanier, a 5th-year transfer senior. Igor Milicic, a 5th-year transfer senior. Zakai Ziegler is a 4th-year senior, playing very good basketball right now. Darlington Dubar is getting worked into the lineup, is a 5th-year transfer senior. This team is led, the newcomers are 5th-year transfer seniors. It's not about the chemistry. It's that these guys are way too mature to let themselves slip up, I think, more than anything else. And I think maturity matters a lot.
Still, unless they just got lucky. I mean, you talk about, if I take any 12 people, the chances that I'm going to have great team chemistry are about 1 in 1,000. I read books about hiring people. I mean, just the odds are, I'm just telling you that one could not be as engaged as another. And maybe that's where Darlington Dubar is.
Yeah, but see, here's the difference between, like, and I know which people talk about that all the time, like running a sports team, like running a business and hiring people. You want to know the biggest difference, Dave?
What's that?
When we run this, for instance, our channel, we're in competition with ourselves, right?
Right.
That's all we're in competition for. We're focusing on ourselves. When you're running sports, it's actually an advantage. You're in competition with other people. And when you're in competition with other people, it's not that you have to have good team chemistry. You just have to have better team chemistry than everybody else. And so I think that that's kind of the thing with college basketball is, and I also think these 5th-year seniors, the maturity level they have relative to the chemistry needed. What's the one I always bring up? Your 2008 Celtics that won the title that year with 66 wins. No one thought those 3 could work together immediately. But they all were so mature, they were willing to just sacrifice major parts of their game that they had played throughout their whole careers. And they came together to go win a title that year.
Here is what you have to do if you're anywhere near that Athens exit. Get off on Dynasty Pools and Spas. You just stop by and say hello, and you get a free prize just for saying hello from Off the Hook Sports. Plus, you will get $500 off a spa if you decide on one, thanks to our friends at Dynasty Pools and Spas. Dave Hooker here for Dynasty Pools and Spas, your home for the best spas and everything you need to jump right in. Relaxing, therapeutic, absolutely. But what sets Dynasty Pools and Spas apart from others is that you get everything with any spa purchase. You get the cover lift, the steps, delivery, and chemicals. When Dynasty Pools and Spas delivers your spa from their Athens location within 125 miles, you'll get your own personal hydrotherapy spa. Mention me, Dave Hooker, or Off the Hook Sports, and get $500 off your top quality new spa. Dynasty Pools and Spas, just off the Athens exit. Drop in and receive a free gift from Off the Hook Sports, Dynasty Pools and Spas. Mention Off the Hook Sports for a drop-in prize and that $500 discount, Dynasty Pools and Spas. To check out some of the Dynasty Spa models and to buy spa chemicals, go to dynastypoolsandspas.com. Dynasty Pools and Spas. I know you only have so much time, and I know that you probably, some of you, root for the Lady Vols when it's convenient to you, when they're winning national championships, when and that used to be the case for our younger listeners, when there's a buzz around the program. I get that. You had the Neeks, you had Candace Parker. I mean, there was star power left and right. You need to watch these Lady Vols. Let me give you a couple of numbers. 28 forced turnovers per game. And then 92.6 points per game, which is the third highest rated offense in the nation. So, Caleb, this is kind of like the 2021, more like the 2022 team with Josh Heupel. You may not believe ultimately that this person will win a championship, talking about Kim Caldwell, but for the time being, let's say trailers before the movie, you don't know that you're going to watch an Oscar-winning movie. But right now, I've watched a pretty darn good set of trailers.
Oh, yes. And in Tennessee, like I told you guys last week, they aced their first real test by beating Florida State at home 79-77. But I said, based on that game, this team clearly has a ceiling where they could probably beat on a good day any given team. But they're still, I see like 20-25 win team, maybe Sweet 16. But Saturday was a good day for them. Guys, they played Iowa. Iowa was number 17 and undefeated. Now, this is not Caitlin Clark's Iowa. This is not the Iowa that made it to the national title game. But they're still a good team. That's a good program. And Tennessee bum rushed them. Beat them 78-68. Guess how many turnovers Iowa had in the game, Dave? How many turnovers Tennessee?
I'm going to go with 39.
No, not that high. It was 30. But guess how many steals Tennessee had?
I'm going to go with 14 and a half, and I'll take the over.
Yes, 18. They had 18 steals in this game. They were incredible. Alyssa Latham had 3 steals. Ruby Whitehorn had 3 steals. Talasia Cooper had 2 steals. Kanaya Boyd had 2 steals. Tess Darby had 3 steals. Now, here's what really stands out, Dave. I told you they didn't go for shooters this year, so they were going to be vulnerable at times because of that. So they went 7 of 29 from 3. But here's the interesting thing about that. They made Iowa go 3 of 14 from 3, and it didn't matter because the truth is the combination, like I've told you guys this in the past with how Kim Caldwell builds her teams. At the smaller level, she went for athleticism and shooting. That was it. At this level, the first thing John Adams asked her, the very first question John Adams asked her on the first day that made her go viral because she said, I wouldn't be here if I didn't think this could work. John Adams brought up the level of play at the SEC and said, do you think your style can work? What he was really asking was, are you going to be able to get the size that you need to compete in the SEC with the athleticism and the shooting? And Kim Caldwell said, I wouldn't be here if I didn't think I could. Well, Kim Caldwell in the offseason was limited on what she could get on the talent. So what did she focus on? Athleticism, like at the lower levels, and then size. She sacrificed shooting. Her philosophy was, I need the shooting to be great long-term. But if I can create controlled chaos, I can still win enough games now and then recruit what I need later. That's what beat Iowa on Saturday. Iowa was, I mean, Dave, you really hate to like go all stereotypical, but just think what you think when you think Iowa and Tennessee was just ridiculously, wildly too athletic for them to hang. And so they turned this, they upped the tempo. Wait, they went crazy.
Did you just use a Caucasian stereotype? Is that what you did?
I mean, you hate to go there, but it's like, yes, Tennessee was way too athletic for Iowa to hang with them. Way too athletic.
I don't know what's in Caleb's coffee this morning. He's throwing around those Caucasian stereotypes. Like definitely all daughters of coaches. They work extra hard. They're always there when the gym opens. They're always the last ones to leave. That's what blows me away about them. All the Caucasian stereotypes. I swear I think there's a good chance that whenever you're watching this, Will Brooks is running around in a circle someplace on a football field just to try to get a little bit better.
Just working in the gym, man.
Just putting in time.
I mean, you hate to go there, but like, I'm not going to go there, but they were just too athletic, man. They were too, if you watch that game, they were on a totally separate class of athleticism than Iowa and just turned it on. And there was nothing Iowa could do to hang with them. Now, the question becomes when you play a South Carolina, are they going to be too athletic for a South Carolina? South Carolina slows it down and uses their interior, but like you know this team, Dave. You've seen enough teams in the NBA do it. There are teams that play slow, that play big and under the basket. But if you turn up the tempo, it's not like they can't run with you too. They're just choosing not to. And I think that that's going to be the difficulty with Tennessee is they do well when the game gets out of hand. But I think South Carolina has the players to hang with them. So
how close do you think they are? Because if you come out at Tennessee and let's say you win 22 games and you make the Elite Eight, do you think that's reasonable with this team?
I think that's reasonable. I think the Sweet 16 is the most reasonable, though.
So let's say you win 22 games. Is that a stretch?
No, that's not a stretch.
Okay, 22, and you're making the Sweet 16 at the University of Tennessee. Sorry, but the Lady Vols are viewed as a much more established and successful program than the men, than the football team. It took the football team a quick boom, 4 years because of NIL and transfer portal. So if you're exciting, you got the college women's basketball Hall of Fame down the road. You've got the best, and I say the best, facilities with any other women's program out there. How quickly can Kim Caldwell win a national championship? Or at least, we all know the tournament is a lot of happenstance, but how quickly can she have them at a championship level where you look at the Lady Vols and you say, that's one of the teams that could win it if things break their way in March?
Year 3. I think next year she'll be really pushing it, but year 3. And the reason I say year 3 is Kim Caldwell went for the transfer portal this year to quickly build her roster, but she's now doing it through recruiting. And I think recruits need in basketball and women's basketball. I think recruits really take off by their second year, typically. So I say year 3 is what it's going to happen after she gets her recruiting class in, and it's been in for a year. So I think next year, though, they will make a push. And by the way, someone brought this up. That is true, what you're saying. Iowa's coach in the game said, Dave, quote, she was lip red in the huddle saying it, said, they may be taller, jump higher, and are faster, but they're not better basketball players.
You know, you don't win a lot of those games. I don't care how great you coach, but if you're shorter, slower, not as explosive, and not as fast, you typically don't win a lot of those games.
Yeah, that is those stare like, oh my gosh, we play good fundamental ball. They're more athletic and they have all these things, but we play good solid fundamentals. They're not better basketball players. I don't know. It looks like they kind of are better basketball players. All that's part of playing basketball.
Well, I mean, is this roster better than you thought it would be at the beginning of the year?
Yes, because I didn't think that they could. I thought a team like Iowa could shoot them out of the gym, and it didn't matter if they turned up the tempo and played all that aggressiveness. Great defense. There's no substitute for great shooting in basketball. And guys, I'm just going to tell you that right now. And the NBA's called on to that. Great shooting is more important than any other skill you have in basketball, period, end of story, because great defense can't stop great shooting. But so I thought Tennessee would be able to, I didn't think they'd be able to handle a team like Iowa, but they did. They aggressively played every passing lane, and Iowa couldn't even get a decent look from 3 on Saturday.
Okay. I think it's worth reminding everyone this is not the Caitlin Clark Iowa team.
It's not, but they are again, filling the stereotype. What makes them good is they shoot the 3 ball well.
Well, I'm going to show my ignorance for a second. I mean, have they been good before Caitlin Clark? Are they a good, solid program? I mean, I'm going to show my ignorance for a second. I know they're good with Caitlin Clark. Who wouldn't be?
Yeah, no, they're a good, solid program. Their head coach, I'm going to pull her up now, but she's been there for a long, long time, if I'm not mistaken. And so, she is.
Go ahead and do that while I tell our friends that you use the promo code HOOKED and you get 10% off TristarHatsCo.com, TristarHatsCo.com.
Have you seen the latest TriStar Hats Co. product?
TriStar Hats Co.? What's that?
You know, those really cool hats, shirts, tumblers, and even license plates with 3 stars like the official Tennessee flag and stripes like the American flag. Pretty patriotic if you ask me.
Ah, gotcha. Seen those. Those are cool. Where can I get them?
Simple. TristarHatsCo.com. And if you order now, there's 10% on any order $50 or more. Plus, use the promo code HOOKED.
With the promo code HOOKED, you get 10% off. That's hooked.
And don't forget free shipping with any order over $50. Stock up at TristarHatsCo.com. That's TristarHatsCo.com. TristarHatsCo.com. There are plenty of wannabes out there, so make sure you go to TristarHatsCo.com for the best quality and customer service.
Will do, and I'll be sure to use the promo code HOOK. That's hooked when I do to save an additional 10% off. TristarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. is a trademark of TriStar Hats Co. LLC. Any use without.
Okay, so Iowa is a good win, big win, monster win.
Big win for this program. Big win, not monster win, but big win. So just a quick story on Iowa. The year before Caitlin Clark got there was the COVID shortened season, so there was no NCAA tournament. So the last NCAA tournament Iowa played in before Caitlin Clark got there was 2019. They had won the Big Ten tournament that year and made the Elite Eight. So they are a good overall program. Now, I spoke out of turn. Their coach that I said had been there for a while was Lisa Bluter. She, and this could be a red flag, Dave. She decided to retire the year after Caitlin Clark left, which is kind of.
I think it's a really solid call.
Yeah. And so Jan Jensen is now leading the program, but Jan Jensen was undefeated, did have Iowa undefeated. And so I think that, and Jensen has been an assistant. She's been an assistant at Iowa since Bluter took over there in 2000. So she's like a long time coach there. It was a perfect transition. So this is still a really good program. And so for Tennessee to get this win, Kim Caldwell's first year, speaks a lot given where they were. And again, like I told you guys, they weren't a bad team last year, but I think getting rid of Kelly Harper shows that Danny White is prioritizing that he wants the Lady Vols to go way beyond just being a good program. And also, it was a money move. You got to keep energy in that program.
Yep. Last look brought to you by Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. Look at me, no contacts, no glasses, because I had LASIK done by Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn.
The first step to better vision is to visit ccteyes.com. The information you need is easy to access, and setting an appointment is as simple as clicking the tab. Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn, and Eye Care Optical at ccteyes.com.
All right, the show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. BanksandJones.com. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 10. Be sure and leave a review, subscribe, turn those notifications on wherever you may be listening. We greatly appreciate it. For Caleb Calhoun, I'm Dave Hooker. This has been a presentation